Hello and welcome to another How Does That Work video. Now, a brilliant mind in my class recently said to me, Mr. Cook, how do printers work? And I thought that was a fantastic question because printing is something we do loads at school and some of you may have done at home as well to print off worksheets for our home learning. So today we're going to explore printers. We're going to explore where they came from and how they work. Let's go.
Printers. Whether you have one in your house or not, every piece of paper with pictures or writing on it that wasn't hand-drawn by someone has come from a printer. But how do they actually work? Let's start by talking about what printing is. The idea of printing things has been around for a really long time, and over the years different methods have been used which have allowed humans to print more and more complicated things. At its most simple, printing means using a template to produce lots of copies of text, shapes, and images. Let's start with a really simple example. This is a potato printer, and it works in a very simple way. You chop out some of the potato into a shape to make your template. Next, you cover the template bit in paint and stamp down. And all you have to do to make an exact copy is stamp again, and then replace the paint. Now, although this method is simple, by using stronger materials like wood or metal, this method can be used to produce beautiful images and complex text. This is an example from China, made about 1,200 years ago. A wooden template has been cut, covered in ink, and then stamped to print this amazing image on paper. And in fact, this image is from one of the first ever printed books. Now let's hop forward a few hundred years. Inventors in China and Korea developed even smarter ways to print, using symbols on a template that could be moved. Let me show you what I mean. The template these writers used would have looked a bit like this. Here you can see a metal sheet with lots of letters on it. It's a template just like before, but with one difference. These letters can be taken in and out and moved to different places on the template to allow different text to be produced quickly. When all the letters are in the right place for a page, it can be stamped lots of times to produce lots of copies. Eventually, this idea made its way to Europe and a guy called Johannes Gutenberg, and he made this very famous by producing copies of the Bible. Right, it's time to jump forward a long way, otherwise we might get stuck in history forever. Let's jump forward to today and talk about how modern electric printers work. The idea is very similar, except that the template for printing is instead stored on a computer. Let's take our friend who we met before in the internet video. She wants to print out a worksheet for her son to complete. So she loads up the file on her computer and clicks print. Now the file on the computer is the bit that acts like the template, and the computer sends this template to the printer. And the printer has a few important parts. The paper feed tray, the ink cartridges, and this funny looking thing, the printer head. This is where all the magic happens. So the computer sends information to the print head, telling it exactly where the ink needs to go. Next up, the paper begins to move into the printer. Then, the print head gets the ink it needs from the cartridges and moves along the paper, releasing tiny droplets of ink in exactly the right places. Now these dots of ink are so small we can't see them as individual dots, but eventually they all add up to produce a smooth image that matches exactly what you started with on your computer screen. So, even though printing has changed a lot since the first people who printed with wood thousands of years ago, we still use a template and ink to make our lives easier and save on a whole lot of drawing and writing today. So next time you pick up a book or write on a worksheet, think about the printer that copied a template to produce the perfect print you're looking at. And next time you see a teacher coming out of the staff room looking a bit cross and bothered, it's probably because the printer broke.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll see you again next week for the final How Does That Work video of this year. For now, stay smiling, keep curious, and keep asking, how does that work?